All right, all right. All right, Vaughn, I see you, bro. All right, let's get them started. Let's get them started. All right.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression in our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist, right here on WHGE 95.3 FM. This is WHGE 95.3, the first black radio station in Wilmington. I'm going to ask y'all to do something for me. Take pride in that. Protect it from those who would steal or damage it. Please don't use the yard as a toilet or for trash disposal. This is our radio station. Black people, show us some love. Eastside pride, we matter. That's right. Show us some pride. This is WHGE 95.3, the education advocacy station. All right. I'm going to get right to it. Yes, I will be joined shortly by my partner in consciousness, Nsoromma. All right. Okay. You know what? Let's get right to it here. I don't want to waste no time. I know what you came for. Listen. I grew up in the 70s. I was born in the 60s. Let me get something straight. I made a win over this last week, but you learn by repetition. During the 60s and the early 70s, when I was coming up, we were declaring that black is beautiful. James Brown made a song, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And you know what? At the beginning of that song, all right, if you hear the original recording, which is rare and hard to come by, but in James Brown, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, James said, oh yeah, they've been waiting for this one. I had to do this. It was a hell of a hit, and it meant a lot to us. And one of the reasons we looked at James Brown the way we did. We were calling ourselves brothers and sisters wearing afros and cornrows. Now, today, we're bleaching our skin. Bleaching our skin. Seen a couple of people do that. I was in Sammy Sosa. He done bleached his skin so much he looked pink. One of the biggest disappointments, one of the people that really disappointed me, is a beautiful black woman with rich, dark, melanated skin. A hero in our community. Serena Williams bleached her skin. Now we calling ourselves the N-word and B's and wearing long weaves and sagging our pants off our asses. And you think the regression is normal? It's not. It's the deliberate result of the negative white media social engineering. That's why you need to tune into the Open Eye. Tell your friends and family to do so. The Open Eye is brought to you by the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets, founders and builders of the Pearl Center, the Veteran-Specific Apartment Building. BCHV, changing veterans' lives all over Delaware.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM. This is Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist on the Open Eye. And let me tell you something. If Africans and their diaspora were truly inferior, it would be unnecessary to rewrite their history, downgrade their accomplishments, and work for 400 years to limit their future. That's a quote from Dr. Douglas S. Shipley. Look him up. Look, it's no accident you learned about Helen Keller instead of W.E.B. Du Bois. You learned about the Watts in L.A. riots, but not Tulsa or Wilmington, North Carolina. You learned that George Washington's dentures were made from wood rather than the teeth of slaves. Oh yeah. They pulled slaves' teeth out. You know, teeth out. You know they didn't have any anesthesia and what do you call it? Painkiller anesthesia. Pulled them out and made dentures out of them. You learned about black ghettos, but not about Black Wall Street. You learned about the New Deal, but not redlining, which mention that often. I'm going to have to get deeper into what redlining is. For those of you that don't know, you should by now, what redlining is when banks and the government drew a red border around black communities and declared that these communities would get no financial support. They would not be able to borrow money for the bank for improvements. There would be no mortgages. That's what redlining is. You learned about Tommy Smith's fist in the air at the 1968 Olympics, but not that he was sent home the next day and stripped of his medals. You learned about black crime, but white criminals were never lumped together and discussed in their terms of race, and were not blamed for the pathology of the white community. You learned about states' rights as the cause of the Civil War, but not that slavery was mentioned 80 times in the Articles of Succession. See, privilege is having history rewritten so that you don't have to acknowledge uncomfortable facts. Racism is perpetrated by people who refuse to learn or acknowledge this reality. And that is the reality. First name I mentioned there was W.E.B. Du Bois. Now, I'm a Garveyite, fifth generation. What is a Garveyite? A follower of the sayings and philosophies and goals of Marcus Garvey, the ultimate Pan-Africanist. And I gotta mention something here. How many of you have seen the Hidden Colors documentaries? Yeah, I have. I have all 5 of them. They are by businessman, documentary producer Tariq Nasheed. And he has 2 other movies besides the 5 hidden color movies. 1804, which is a very good depiction of the history of Haiti, Haiti's revolution. And he has another documentary called Buck Breaking. Ooh, big ups on even having the courage to make buck breaking, because buck breaking, if you don't know what buck breaking is something that took place on the plantation when they would take the biggest, strongest, most influential male slave and rape him in front of everybody. See, as bad as you think slavery was, it was a lot worse. So I salute Tariq Nasheed for putting out these documentaries. However, there is one place where we have to part company. Now, Tariq Nasheed declares that we should call ourselves as African Americans, what is it, foundational Black Americans, and that we should basically separate ourselves from other blacks in the diaspora and from blacks on the continent. And he has declared that Pan-Africanism is dead and a fantasy. I very much disagree with that, being a Pan-Africanist, knowing of many Africans who are Pan-Africanists, who look at Africans outside of the diaspora as their brothers. Now, that was something I had to bring up. Don't let go of your root, Mother Africa. Now, like I said, W.E.B. Du Bois was one of the names I mentioned in my last comment. Du Bois was the pioneering black activist who died on this day in 1963. It wasn't this day. What day was it? Oh, well, it was the day before the March on Washington. It was at the 28th of August, I think that was. Okay, no account of black history in America is complete without an examination of the rivalry between Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, which in the late 19th to early 20th century actually changed the course of the quest for equality in American society, and in the process helped give birth to the modern civil rights movement. Though Washington and Du Bois were both born in the same era, both highly accomplished scholars, and both committed to the cause of civil rights for blacks in America, it was their differences in background and method that would have the greatest impact on the future. Now, Booker T. Washington, of course, was born into slavery in Virginia in 1856. Early life and education did much to influence his later thinking. After the Civil War, he worked in a salt mine and as a domestic for a white family, and eventually attended the Hampton Institute, one of the first all-black schools in America. After completing his education, he began teaching. And in 1881, he was selected to head the Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute in Alabama, a sort of vocational school that sought to give African Americans the necessary moral, I quote that, moral instruction and practical skills to make them successful in the burgeoning Industrial Revolution, which was going on at that time. Washington believed that it was economic independence and the ability to show themselves as productive members of society that would eventually lead blacks to true equality, and that they should for the time being set aside demands for civil rights. Now, these ideals form the essence of a speech he delivered in a mixed-race audience at the Cotton State and International Exposition in Atlanta in 1895. There and elsewhere, his ideals were readily accepted by both blacks who believed in the practical rationality of his approach, and whites who were more than happy to defer any discussion of social and political equality for blacks in a later date. It was, however, referred to pejoratively as the Atlanta Compromise by its critics, among them W.E.B. Du Bois. William Edward Burghardt Du Bois was born in 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, to a free black family in a comparatively integrated community. He attended the local schools and excelled in his studies, eventually graduating as a valedictorian of his class. However, when in 1885 he began attending Fisk University in Tennessee, he encountered for the first time the open bigotry and repression of the Jim Crow South, and the experience had a profound impact on his thinking. Du Bois returned to the North to further his education, with nothing less than equal rights for black Americans being his ultimate goal. Now, when he earned his PhD from Harvard in 1895, he was the first black man to have done so. I'm going to have to check that. And his dissertation, The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America, 1638 to 1870, was one of the first academic works on the subject. And when Du Bois was asked about attending Harvard, he was asked, wasn't it an honor to be a Harvard graduate? Du Bois said the honor was Harvard's. One of the things I did like about Du Bois. By the early 20th century, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois were the two most influential black men in the country. Washington's conciliatory approach to civil rights had made him adept at fundraising for his Tuskegee Institute as well as for other black organizations, and had also endeared him to the white establishment, including President Theodore, who often consulted him regarding all black matters. On the other hand, Du Bois had by that time become the country's foremost black intellectual, having published numerous influential works on the conditions of black Americans. In contrast to Washington, Du Bois maintained that education and civil rights were the only way to equality, and that conceding their pursuit would simply serve to reinforce the notion of blacks as second-class citizens. All right. Following a series of articles in which the two men expounded on their ideologies, their differences finally came to a head when, in 1903, Du Bois published a work titled The Souls of Black Folks, in which he directly criticized Washington in his approach and went on to demand full civil rights for blacks. More than just deepening the personal dislike between Washington and Du Bois, this ideological rift would in time prove to be one of the most important in the history of the struggle for civil rights. Believing that political action and agitation were the only way to achieve equality, in 1905, Du Bois and other black intellectuals founded a radical political group called Niagara, which was dedicated to the cause. Though the group eventually dissolved a few years later, in 1909, several of its members and many of its aims were incorporated into a new organization, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Now remember, the NAACP was actually founded by quote-unquote progressive whites. And I put that in quotes because you never believed that even those that could declare themselves progressive have our best interests in mind. When President Woodrow Wilson assumed office in 1913, he immediately segregated the federal government, and Booker T. Washington consequently lost the political influence he had enjoyed for the previous decade. Washington died at Tuskegee, Alabama on November 14, 1915. W.E.B. Du Bois eventually split from the NAACP, but he continued to champion the cause for civil rights for both African Americans and the African diaspora around the world. After joining the American Communist Party in 1961, Du Bois repatriated to Ghana and became a naturalized citizen there. He died in Ghana on August 27, 1963, at the age of 95.
I mean, like...
The March on Washington was the next day. How you doing, brother? Nsoromma in the house.
I was going to ask you a question within that. Why don't our heroes and inspirational people have full-length movies and documentaries?
Because we wait on and depend on others to do it, okay? And that's something that we got to stop.
But I'm like, but we have all these, rich Tyler Perry, so-called. I mean, he do. I'm not saying he ain't contributing to, but that should be the main focus. You know what I'm saying? As far as keeping our existence alive and keeping the knowledge that we supposed to carry to be able to say who we are and where we come from. That just baffles.
I heard that, brother, but like I said, good morning, brother. Big ups.
Chop. Good morning, bro. You know what I'm saying? I just popped in.
Hey, look, brother, I'm going to have to ask you to go over that again. Because I didn't have your mic on, and people might have heard you on Facebook, but they didn't hear you on the radio.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It's your boy, Nsoromma. I was saying, why isn't it that, after you read about,
the boys,
all our famous and inspirational black people that we have throughout our history, I was saying, why isn't it we don't have any full-length movies and documentaries? You know what I'm saying? And we have all of these Tyler Perrys, you know what I'm saying, that's, in a position to keep our legacy alive for real, with real documented, things. And it just baffles me that this is not their main focus, and keeping themselves alive.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and keeping our legacy alive.
Right. The legacy is us. We are that legacy. We are that history that has been dropped. There is getting less and less know about where and who we are. And they trying to take it out of the curriculum.
Oh, yeah. So
if you don't know where you are, you become that slave automatically.
Word. Yes, you do. Yeah. It's something. I saw this white history teacher.
Right.
Okay. And he said he quizzed his class. Most of them were white.
Right.
And he asked them what they knew about black history.
And I can say a lot of them didn't know much.
Okay. He asked them to name 5 people from American history. And most of them named George Washington, Abraham Lincoln.
Basics.
Yeah, Ben Franklin, and what have you, so on and so forth. They named 5. And he said, name 5 people from American history that are black. And they came up with maybe 2 or 3.
Right.
Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Right.
That's what most of them could name. Okay? Because they're not being taught this in school. Now, why this is going on?
Right.
Why this is going on? These students have shown themselves to have a minimal amount of information or any knowledge of the history. Meanwhile, racist states, racist governors are declaring that issues of race, the history of race in America, will not be taught. Okay, they already don't know a damn thing. Yeah, you're going to make sure they don't know nothing.
Because you know what they're doing. They are creating that slave that they need. You understand? If we don't listen, the worst thing that any human can do is not communicate or connect to a pen or a pencil. Now, That is the key to everything. You have to sign your signature to cash your check.
Right.
If you don't know how to spell your name and write your name with a pencil or a pen,
students aren't even being taught cursive writing anymore.
Exactly.
You know?
That's telling you that it's becoming a digital world. And if you can't work within this digital world, if you don't know how to read and text and do all this stuff inside of signing for that, whatever it may be you want, you put an X there. They trying to get you to go back to, what's your name? Sign here. And you just put an X. And that's you.
That's your mark.
That's me. Yeah, right. This is what they training our people to go back to. That's out.
Yeah.
That's out.
Yes, it is.
You know what I'm saying?
And how many times have I told you?
What?
Right? That students are not taught to think anymore. They are taught to remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember all the bad things that happen, not the future that you can see. You know?
Well, what I mean when I say they are taught to remember, what they're taught to remember is how to pass a test. What they're taught to remember is how to be subservient. What they're taught to remember is to be a corporate slave, basically. They're not taught to think. Because if you have students that are taught to think,
right?
Okay, oh, wait, I got something just for that out there.
What?
I hope I brought that with me. Silky.
Yeah.
Not in break, but at any rate,
if they taught to think, you're saying,
then they're not, how can I say, what's the word I'm looking for here?
They're not cooperative.
They're not cooperative, but they're not qualified to be a slave. See, you're taught to think, okay? And see, this is why it was against the law to even teach a slave to think during slavery days. Or taught to read or write.
Right. Because they want you a blank canvas.
Right.
If you got a blank canvas, you can turn that into anything you want. Just like a child. When a woman have a child, or a man and a woman, the father and the mother have a child, they can raise that child to be whatever they want them to be. However they want them to be, through the training and the process of what the child is being injected with.
Right.
So, through the teaching. So, in saying that, if you got a blank canvas, they can tell you to do anything you want. They can tell you or ask you to do anything and you appreciate it and do it.
Right.
Because you know no better.
Right.
You don't
and
know
that's significant right there.
$5,000 for this job, and they tell you to go, Joe, go do that for me and sit that over there, and I'll give you a piece of bread. Yeah, right.
Or a butter biscuit.
Right, or a butter biscuit, or what's them things they used to use for to shut the dogs up? The hush puppies.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean,
how about that?
That's where that name come from.
That's where the name come from.
The hush puppy, breed, the little rolls come from our ancestors making them on their trips when they run, trying to get away and to escape, and they send the dogs after them, and they throw the hush puppies out, which is the little food to keep them there to make them search and forget them for a minute. I mean,
how many of y'all knew that? Okay,
call in.
Yes,
call us. Man, talk to us for real.
944.
Link up and talk to us. We want conversation from the world. You know what I'm saying?
That's word. And see, here's the thing, right? When you read, what you do, you increase your vocabulary, and as your vocabulary grows, okay, this allows you to think about your condition. But if your vocabulary is this big, you can't even have the thoughts of freedom. Your thoughts can't even express the freedom.
It was just all cuss words. I hear people that talk like that all the time. I mean, that's a prerogative, but you really not saying nothing. None of them words is connecting to make a intelligent sentence.
How about that? How about that? They are not.
You know, so I'll be like, okay.
So, and I tell you that, I was really blessed in that, I had Jane Gibbs for a mother.
Yeah.
Because what did she do? She made sure that I could read and write before I even went to school. Okay? True. Take a lesson from that. Make sure that you teach your children at home as well as school. When I came home from school, okay, my mother went over my schoolwork and she corrected what they got wrong. especially when it came to history.
Right.
She made sure that I had the proper information.
Right.
This is what you got to do. Yes, your children need an educational foundation. Be that educational foundation.
You have to. It starts at home. It was a saying.
Starts at home.
We had sayings when we were coming up that they don't even say anymore, because our sayings that they was saying to us, it was inspirational sayings, not even really realizing that they was programming us to be successful. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
you know, they were saying you could be anything you want, and you know, go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could do it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no. Nah, that's too far. That's impossible. No, we wasn't getting any of that. We was getting like encouragement.
Right.
And,
right.
And I don't see that a lot anymore. We were getting encouraged by other parents and other individuals beside our own parents.
Because we came up in the village.
Right. Our community and our village was a different vibe of energy. You know what I'm saying? Now this energy that we got in there now is hate and anger and you know, depression and
you know, one thing that
go along with
that
PSP.
hurts my feelings.
I mean,
and I see it all the time. And this hurts my feelings when I see it.
What?
And that is the way some of our young black women speak to their children. You little ignorant, stupid so-and-so, that's what you're speaking into them.
Right.
When you call them ignorant and stupid, that's what you're speaking into them.
Yeah.
Ignorance and stupidity. And
But
then you wonder why.
They don't know no better because they ain't had no parent teaching classes. They ain't been involved in the understanding of how to raise a kid and what it takes to. I mean, some of these, we need programs that it is accessible for them to learn these things.
Right.
Our government is not structuring that for our people.
No.
They have it for their people, but they don't have it for our people.
No, and we need to do that. And what we need are the return of African traditions like rites of passage. Okay?
Right.
When in an African society, you had to go through the rites of passage. Meaning that before you went into adulthood, there were certain things that you had to know and understand. There were certain skills and philosophies that you had to be able to employ to show that you were going to be a viable, committed, contributing member of society.
And not only that, it taught you to connect to your energy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Energy is everything. We created from energy.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? So if they teaching you not to touch your inner being, to say, you know how you have an intuition if you going this way and it say make a left turn and then something say nah, keep straight, and then you look down there, the police or something down there with the lights on
the left turn.
That's the energy that you live. That's your energy. That's the energy that they are not wanting you to connect to.
Right. And that's, like you said, that's the intuition.
Right. That's
in your gut.
Right. That's what, if you could live by that, you will catch and see a lot of things unfold before they unfold. So, and then you can go your other way. Because the energy and the spirit, that's what pushes you right now. That's what's inside you right now working. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed.
So they trying to not have that connection. They just want that to be that blank.
Right. WHGE 95.3.
That's it.
The Open Eye.
Yo, what's good, Samaya? Hey, yo, boy, I see you. Good morning, my brother. Yo, what up, Santel? How you doing? What's good? I see you, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Kobe, what's good? Philin Belly. Yo, Philin Belly every Saturday, you know what I'm saying? Merlin, I forget his address. Throw your address up here so I can say it, Cole. You know what I'm saying? Maya, what's up? I see you, baby boy. I ain't doing nothing but messing. Yo, and call us and talk to us, ask some questions. We be on it. We ain't playing. You for real. WHGE 95.3 FM. You want real radio? You want real vibe? Come check us out. Hey, we ain't playing. You got a question? 844-944-3953.
All right.
Uh-huh. Mr. Gibbs, what's good?
What's good?
Still on you?
Yeah, I'm still on here.
What you saying? You got
I got some stuff to say to him.
Oh, what's coming up next?
Oh, it's coming up next, baby. Yeah. Got some things you're going to hit you upside the head with.
Okay. Y'all ready to get
I made a statement earlier this week that people didn't really understand where I was coming from.
Okay.
Yeah. They thought, oh man, he's tripping. Oh, I wasn't tripping. I knew exactly what I meant. And when I break this down to you, you're going to know too. That's why you tune in, so you can learn something, ain't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's word, yeah.
We just want to open your eyes, you know what I'm saying?
That's it.
You ain't even really got to learn it. Just open your eyes to see it. And then once you see how
and how many people answered my question on Facebook? I saw a lot of you did. If you're a black person in America, do you consider yourself African?
I consider myself ancient.
Yeah, Africa is the most ancient land.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I tell you what, I definitely consider myself African. Because like Garvey said, you know, if you cut off the root to the tree gonna die. And Mother Africa is our root. I won't ever forget that. We had some people that said they wasn't black and they was indigenous to the land, but they was of African descent. I think that was my cousin Ron Gibbs that said, big up Ron, I appreciate and I respect what you said. WHGE 95.3 FM on the air with Nsoromma.
Yeah.
And Patrice Gibbs, that's me. That's what I posted this on Facebook. Everybody knows what's been going on. America pulled out of Afghanistan. And, you know, some people are like, yeah, they pulled out wrong. And the Taliban, they took over again. And, excuse me.
Get it together, my brother.
Yep. And what I said was, I declared that the war in Afghanistan was a rousing success. And some people were like, what? Are you nuts? Nah, you gotta understand. You gotta understand.
Understand what?
Where I'm coming from with that. Why would I say the war in Afghanistan was a rousing success? Okay. This is a kid asking her mother, yes, why do we have wars? Because we are ruled by an elite group of psychopaths who own the banks that control the government and media, and they fund both sides of war for profit, and they manufacture the consent of the public through the propaganda of media. Tune into the open eye. And I said, the thing is, who was the war a success for? This was the most contractor-heavy war in America's history. Corporations presented America with a multi-trillion-dollar bill for its war. On top of that, the Pentagon can't account for $30 trillion. $30 trillion. Yes, indeed, the war was a rousing success for the military-industrial complex. What did General Smedley Butler say? He said, war is a racket. Understand that. You know what a racket is? A racket is just a hustle. And they hustling. Oh, yeah. It is possibly the oldest, easily most profitable, surely the most vicious racket. It is the only one international in scope, and is the only one which the profits are reckoned in dollars and losses in life. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to be to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it's really about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the very many. Out of war, a few people make huge fortunes. $30 trillion missing that can't be accounted for by the Pentagon. You know what missing. And this is on top of the trillions of dollars that are accounted for, that are paid to these corporations and these war profiteers. 30 trillion. Yeah, you know what? If you out there involved in crime, you are an amateur crook. Believe that.
Almost definitely.
Yeah. Because
however level.
At whatever level you at. Because if you ain't steal $30 trillion, you ain't doing it. You talk about never steal anything small. Damn. God damn. $30 trillion? Go on. Do you know what you could do with $30 trillion? You could end world hunger for the next 700 years. That's a long time. America's 250 years old almost. $30 trillion would end the world hunger for the... But don't let Americans say, hey, we need infrastructure. We need a better transportation system. We need to end student debt. Oh, we can't afford that. But you could afford to allow the Pentagon to steal $30 trillion, and y'all ain't said a damn thing about it. The mainstream media ain't worth a damn.
That's right. They are what you call the they throw the dark cloud. They throw the cloud over it so you really can't see the smoke screen.
Right.
They the smoke screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Big time.
What's up, brother Slaughter? You know what I'm saying?
Slaughter in the house.
Yo, listen. The question too. He said, "Where all the gold go during the war?"
Yeah. They stole it.
Yeah. The Queen Elizabeth. It's in her basement.
How about that?
You gotta understand. That's what it's all about. Do you know she got the biggest gold stash in history in her basement? Go to the internet and go to YouTube right now and say Queen Elizabeth gold stash in the basement and see what you can see. That's where all that gold is. You know what I'm saying? So
you know
what?
It took $2 trillion.
Wow.
To train and equip the Afghan military over the past 20 years.
Right.
They fell in a week. In 1 week, they fell when America pulled out. You know why? Because it was never about real training. It was about military contractors. I told you this was the most contractor-heavy war.
Right.
And corporations raking in profits. You know, I mean, damn. And that's what they did. And you wonder, what's wrong with America? Okay, let's make some comparisons.
What?
For instance, Norway. Now, in Norway, elections are 74% government funded. Political advertising on TV and radio is banned. They don't allow you on there with a whole bunch of false information and with how you dissuade people. Right. And guess what? Voter turnout is 81%, and that's ranked the 15th highest in the world. Wow. Let's look at America. In the U.S., elections are 80% funded by corporations and the super wealthy, and much of it for negative TV and radio advertising, and voter turnout is 48th in the world. Right. Ranked 120th out of 169 countries that vote. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong. Oh, you can't come down on capitalism like that. Yes, I can. It's not hypocritical to critique capitalism while participating in it. And we're literally critiquing it because we are forced to participate in it in order to survive. Right. Okay? That's why capitalism has to be offset with democratic socialism so that it does not delve or fall into fascism. America, guess what? It's too damn late. This is a fascist-ass country. What is a fascist country? Where the corporations and the politicians join together to control the populace. Mob America. Mob America. Brother Slaughter again. He honest, you know, yes, indeed. You gotta understand what's happening. Yeah, it's Mob America. Yeah. And that's what a joke, you know. It ain't no joke. We have to learn so we can invest, so we can get our own community, so we can get our own schools, so we can get our own hospitals. We have some of the smartest people, the doctors and teachers in the world. But if them smart doctors and teachers be turned into slaves and that education or that knowledge be beat out of them, I mean, we'll never be able to rise to the people that we can be. That's you know what I'm saying? With the unity that we're supposed to have. You know? Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Now, I want to move on to something else here. Right. How many of you know about Elijah McClain? I really don't know about her. Right? Him. Him? Yeah. He? Okay. Elijah McClain was a 23-year-old really very gentle young black man.
Okay.
Okay? In Aurora, Colorado. He died days after he was detained by police in August of 2019, roughly 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. His death has come to occupy a central place in Colorado's fast-moving debate over police reform. As outrage over police brutality erupted across the country in the wake of George Floyd's death, a wave of fresh attention and scrutiny has been applied to older cases in which people have died after encounters with the police. Of course, one such case, 23-year-old Elijah McClain,
Right.
who died in 2019 after police in Aurora restrained him with a chokehold that has since been banned. 2 years after his death, now when he was killed, the DA said, oh, there's nothing to see here, it was just a regular police killing, a justified homicide, let's move on. Okay?
Wow.
Well, here we are 2 years later, and a Colorado grand jury indicted the 3 police officers and the 2 paramedics on charges of manslaughter and criminally negligent.
What?
Now, Mr. McClain was walking home from the convenience store when someone called 911 saying he looked sketchy.
Right.
He was wearing a ski mask because it was cold. You know? And he was waving his arms. This self-taught musician, probably thinking of music. Yeah. You know, he taught himself to play violin.
Okay.
Very gentle soul here. All right. Let me tell you something. You call the cops, you calling a gun. That's what you doing. You call the cops on me, I don't want nothing more to do with your ass. Because you calling for me to get hurt or killed. Especially when I ain't did nothing.
I mean, in some certain situations, do you want to be the one that shoot the person, or you want the police to do it? If you have to defend yourself, what is the real situation? When the real situation is boiled down to you have this criminal in your face or whoever in your face, and it's that time, do you defend yourself by killing them or shooting them, or defending yourself, or you call the police? You turn your back and go in the house and call the police, you get protection.
But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is these people.
Protection come and kill you.
Yeah, and that protection come and kill you.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm talking about. What you're talking about is when we call the cops ourselves, expecting what is it? Service and protection. That don't happen.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
But when you, one of these people, one of these Karens or Kens, call the cops on you because you've inconvenienced them or made them uncomfortable, they're calling a gun on an innocent person to get killed. And that's what happened to Elijah McClain.
And them down south states and stuff like that be the ones that they police it, and the KKK, remember, that's all one whole unit.
Oh yeah.
They all together.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna deal with that too.
I'll be reading and looking at documentaries of all the old stuff that happened back in the day, and these criminals getting caught 20 and 14 years later after killing people, and the police sheriff was involved, and you know, the DEA was involved, and all these people.
And what I say about Elijah McClain just now.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So
the DA needs to be charged in this too.
These is people that's been in the system for 40 and 50 years.
Right.
So that's older than what some of these crimes have been. So
but let's not lose focus on Elijah, because it's something really significant here.
Okay.
Okay. And that was the arrest of the paramedics.
Of course, everybody's involved.
Yeah. But
You know
why did the paramedics get charged? Because, now, like I said, Elijah McClain was a very gentle soul. He said to the cops, please don't hurt me, please don't kill me. I haven't done anything. I'm an introvert. I don't do any, I'm not a violent person. I don't get involved in violence. He begged them just to leave him alone. All right? They decided that he was being hostile and that he was a threat. This is a gentle dude now. They decided he was being and so when the paramedics got there, they shot him up with a sedative. On top of being in a chokehold, they shot him up with something that basically hastened his death.
Right. If you that's just like this corona thing, man. They dangerous, man. If you go to the hospital and they say you got corona, they hit you with this medicine, and that medicine is like a morphine or methadone or something. It's a drug, and you don't do drugs, and they hit you with 15 and 20 cc's of methadone, and you never did drugs. You OD and you are dying. And they're not going to say, okay, we getting too much drug. It's still connected to the COVID. You understand? So a lot of people, you're not hearing from this media that this is what's going on behind the scenes. And then when you have the doctors that's coming out that's saying, yo, I don't want to be part of that because the creator is looking down on all of that. You see the floods, you see all kind of stuff that's happening. The water up to the signs. And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I don't want to get off focus here.
It's crazy.
Elijah McClain, it is. Elijah McClain should be alive today. And we owe it to his family to take the step to elevate the pursuit of justice in his name, statewide and across the country.
That's right.
All right.
And every other soul that was taken from the police.
That's right.
And the injustice.
How many remember Ahmaud Arbery? He was the jogger. Remember? The cop and his father? No, not the cop. The former... I don't know.
Chasing him down and shot him.
Chasing down and shot him. Yeah. And they said, oh, it was premeditated. Because they said, there you go. So they was waiting for him. Because he'd been jogging down this road before. Now, when all this took place, the prosecutor in the case said, she tried to cover it up. Because the father in this case had worked for her. Well, guess what? And this is significant.
What?
A grand jury in Coastal Glen County indicted former Brunswick Judicial Circuit District Attorney Jackie Johnson on a felony count of violating her oath of office and hindering a law enforcement officer, misdemeanor. The indictment resulted from an investigation of Georgia Attorney General Chris Carr requested last year into local prosecutors' handling of Arbery's slaying at the cell phone video of the shooting, and the delay in charges sparked the national outcry. So this prosecutor told the cops, now she ain't no boss of the cops, that's the chief of police, but she told the cops not to bring charges against Ahmaud Arbery's murderers. Okay.
I mean, that's what they do. That's how you got. We understand more than the average person because this is how it go. If I'm the head decision maker of whatever may go down, and then I have you who are my friend, and you say, yo, here's the letter, but yo, I need your help on this one. You go, okay, no problem. What is it? Just keep this letter on your desk for at least 10 years, as long as you're in office. Just don't let it go past you, okay? Now, no problem. Just put it over in that pile over there with all the rest of the 20-year stuff that I ain't supposed to touch for 20 years. And that's the way it goes.
That's the way it goes.
And it won't go past this particular person. The president did that. Did you know that? For the four little black girls that got blew up in the building in Alabama or something. Yeah. Yo, the president put the person that was responsible on hold for 14, 15 years. Yo, man, it's...
How do you make a cop change? All right, I want to thank you, Brother Jardea, for posting this.
Right.
From Dick Gregory. This is what Dick Gregory said. He said, it's simple. You pass legislation and say every cop has to be insured. Everybody carrying a gun has to be insured. The first time you violate that, you lose your license. Now, do you hate black people more than feeding your family?
Right.
Give them something they can't afford to lose.
Right. And the insurance company look at was this a responsible shooting or was this a boom? And then yes, they wouldn't do that because they all working together.
That's right.
It's a network. That's what they call it. It's a network.
That's right.
What I mean? So
now, of course, we know where the police come from.
Right.
They come from the slave patrol.
Right.
Now, what is the difference between the slave patrol of 1850, which is when it was established,
right,
and law enforcement in 2021.
It's no difference. The difference is worse because they want that control back. They needed to be back. They got prisons and deals that they've done that was 200-year deals, and they need to fill their quota.
I heard that. Well, let me break it down for you.
Break it down.
Okay, tactics by slave patrol. Okay, which was empowered by the Fugitive Slave Act. Okay, led to the 2021 police tactics, which is empowered by white supremacy. Okay, slave patrols monitored the rigid pass requirements for blacks traversing the countryside.
Right.
So during slavery days, you had to have a pass, and that was regulated by the slave patrols.
Right.
In 2021, disproportionate search of vehicles driven by people of color, despite all reports showing this to be ineffective. Right. So what they do is they pulling you over and they pulling that slave patrol crap on you. You got your pass, N-word?
Right. But they just call it a license and registration now. That's the probable cause. If you ain't got that, which a lot of them don't, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And see, you know, as occasion arose with the slave patrols, they suppressed insurrections.
Right.
Now in 2021, and you know, in modern times, military-style use of force versus peaceful protest. Anytime you have a peaceful protest, when the insurrectionists attacked DC, you know, they hardly had anybody out there. These were violent people. When peaceful protest against police brutality takes place, they out there with military-style weapons, and they immediately start off with the brutality. Understand what you're dealing with here.
Killers and terrorists.
And terrorists.
That's right. I tell you all the time. You got one of them persons that's doing that, they are a threat to your life and livelihood of your family. So they become terrorists to me. And I treat terrorists with extreme prejudice. I'm not playing, I don't play with them. I just, please leave me alone. I'm the nicest guy in the world. So and you have to understand that. I'm telling you I'm the nicest guy in the world, so please leave me alone. So anything after that is your fault.
I heard that.
You know what I'm saying? So
I heard that. Well, you know, and this is coming around to the close, brother.
Right.
All right. Look, when to ride. Okay, understand. Some people are ride or die. Sometimes you don't need to be ride or die.
Right.
All right. Some folks will never realize how hard you were riding behind them until you park. Yeah. As unfortunate a lesson as that is to learn, there's a required skill of discernment, and it's necessary. All we need to do is pay attention and respond accordingly, not emotionally. Reality is some people are only meant to come into your life for a reason and a season, and that's it. And when that's over, you let it go. What happens more than not is we end up breaking our own hearts by granting permanent residence where eviction should be required. We allow our egos to convince us that somehow, if we work hard enough, if we care enough, if we sacrifice enough, one day that they will come to acknowledge, appreciate, and return our love and loyalty. When in truth, neither can be convinced, coerced, or forced into reciprocation.
Right.
One of the hardest lessons to learn is that not every person that is going to stay in your heart has to, or is even meant to stay in your life. Serve that eviction notice. Get them the hell out of there. No matter how bad you think you want it, not everything that was once good for you is good for you in the long run.
Right.
We need to learn to establish healthy boundaries. Okay? I will rather get used to your absence than damage the boundaries of my respect. That's not happening. When you are forced to question where you stand, walk. When things start not to add up, subtract yourself. If they don't value the privilege of your presence, give them the punishment of your absence. You can't make people appreciate you, but you can for damn sure make them wish they had. I'm Patrice Gibbs, this is Open Eye.
I'm Nsoromma.
And as I always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option.
Right?
It's the Open Eye.
WHGE 95.3 FM. Yeah!
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Good job, bro. Big ups. Big ups. That's all right.
Yeah, yo, you know what it is. Yeah, that's what's up. The live coming to an end. The Open Eye Radio Show. You know how we get down. We give you the real business, give you the real news. Start calling in and letting us know what y'all think and how y'all feel and question us about what we saying so we can hear your voice on the radio.
All right, all right. I hope you learned something today. And remember, when I post this on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Open Eye channel. You're going to love it because all our past shows are on there and we getting something said. All right? All right. The Open Eye.
Yeah, you know.